While the Chancellor of the Exchequer is racking his brains about how to repay the pandemic debt, the Prime Minister is rapidly announcing new spending. Just one day after Boris Johnson had promised £12 billion for a green industrial revolution, he announced on Thursday the largest military investment in 30 years. In the middle of the corona and economic crisis, Prime Minister Boris Johnson gave the British Army the largest budget increase in 30 years. Great Britain wants to militarily underpin its global ambitions for the era after Brexit and recommend itself to American President-elect Joe Biden as the most important ally. Brexit proponents like to try to create the image of a global Great Britain that will stretch its feelers all over the world after leaving the EU. A few weeks before the end of the Brexit transition period, British Prime Minister Johnson has now made it clear that he also wants to militarily underpin these global ambitions. The era of shrinking defence budgets must end, and it ends here and now, said Johnson on Thursday at a House of Commons debate in London. The Prime Minister, who is in preventive quarantine after meeting a Member of Parliament who tested positive for COVID-19 and who was connected by video, announced an increase in the defence budget of £16.5 billion for the next 4 years, in addition to inflation-related increases. Given the current annual budget of around £41 billion, this is equivalent to an increase of around 10%. Johnson is thus predicting the highest additional investments in defence since the end of the Cold War, at a time when spending to cushion the corona crisis and the recession are putting the British budget to a historic test. But Johnson stressed that a continuation of the austerity course of recent years would seriously call into question the operational capability of the army. The defence of the kingdom and the security of the British are top priorities. The Prime Minister also hopes to create 40,000 jobs over the next 4 years thanks to investments in new military technologies. The main argument in favour of the armaments programme, however, is the geopolitical situation, which London perceives unstable and dangerous in the face of hybrid threats and rivalries with authoritarian powers such as Russia and China. Against this background, Brexit should not be understood as an isolationist project. The British government wants to play a role in securing trade and communication routes and, as a leading member of the Western Alliance, defend democratic and open societies. In addition, Great Britain is strengthening its position within NATO as the country that spends the most on defence after the USA. In future, it should be 2.2% of gross domestic product. Last but not least, Johnson is trying to secure the role of Great Britain as the most important European ally of the USA with a view to the American President-elect Joe Biden. Since Biden considers Brexit to be a strategic mistake, tensions with Washington may also threaten depending on outcome of the free trade talks with Brussels. Johnson is now trying to prepare the ground for a fruitful collaboration with Biden and not just in security policy. On Wednesday, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, which will host the 2021 World Climate Summit in Glasgow, also presented plans for a green industrial revolution, which the future administration in Washington would like to see. With investments in defence comes the modernisation of the British military. In cooperation between the Ministry of Defence and the British Secret Service, Government Communications Headquarters, the GCHQ, a new cyber unit is to be created that will not only defend the country against internet attacks, but also carry out attacks itself. A new space command is set to defend British satellites in space and be able to launch a first rocket into orbit in 2022. Finally, an agency for artificial intelligence is to develop automated weapon systems. Johnson indicated that the focus on the new warfare, despite additional investments, will also require cutting back on old weapon systems. The eagerly anticipated security policy strategy, which serves as the basis for decision-making and setting priorities, should not be available until January. Simulation games recently caused a stir, according to which Great Britain could do without tanks entirely in the future. What is certain is that the additional investments in the military now limit Johnson's leeway in other fields. There is already speculation about a reduction in development aid. And Conservative MPs from the north of England fear that Johnson's election promise to increase investments in structurally weak areas could turn out to be a castle in the air in view of the looming hole in the state budget. And of course, many Brexiteers will now start, although it has nothing to do with this video, to talk about the German military budget. And just for this case, right here, you'll find the official NATO numbers for the spendings of all NATO member countries. First of all, Germany is still one of the countries with the highest spending on military in NATO. They are behind the US and Great Britain and France, yes, but they are not in the bottom of this list. Second of all, they promised to go to the 2% as well. Yes, they did, but we are still a democracy. And you can't raise it from now until tomorrow immediately. We still have a parliament that has to agree to it. And you are talking a lot about democracy all the time. We are a democracy, and military spendings in a democracy are a very sensitive issue, and you have to do it step by step and slowly, and you have to have good reasons to do that, and you have to sell these reasons to the people in charge that are making the decisions, and that's the people in parliament and not in government. And last but not least, if you have a look at these numbers, Germany had a raise of the spendings of 34% in the last years. That is far more than these 10%. So when you criticize on the basis of facts and not headlines. And if you now want to know more about Brexit, YouTube has chosen another of my videos right here for you on the end screen. And please don't forget to subscribe to my other channels where you will know more about European and global politics. I'll see you in my next video. Click and enjoy. Viel Spaß!